My neighbor posted a TikTok moment late at night. I want to eat barbecue. I want to eat it too, so I sent him a private message. Why not come over tonight and we can cook together? My neighbor hesitated and replied, I assent that a bit inappropriate. Oh, is he avoiding the issue? I replied, it's fine, if you think it's too few people, I can invite a few more. Knowing he likes green rice balls, I urged him, hurry up, I've already prepared the mugwort. Later, lying on my bed watching TikTok moments, I suddenly saw a new update from my neighbor Rocky. I want to eat barbecue. The accompanying picture was from our last gathering. A simple grill, with oily pork belly and sauerkraut mixed together, perfectly crisped. Just looking at the picture, I could already smell the aroma of the meat. I swallowed involuntarily. I also wanted to eat it. The barbecue place is closed for renovations now, so I can't get any, but luckily I have a lot of supplies in the fridge. And just the day before, I received a box of sauerkraut from my mom, so I can still eat at home. I then opened the chat with Rocky and warmly invited him. Why not come over tonight and we can cook together? The chat window quickly showed the other person is typing, but after waiting for half an hour, I still didn't get a response from him. What's up? Doesn't he want to come? I was immediately annoyed. If he doesn't want to come, he should just say so. What does it mean to not reply? Rocky has always been like this, usually indifferent to me, and he never likes the TikTok moments I post. He also seems to look down on me. When we were in the same university, though we had different majors, every time we met he would either ask if I was dating or remind me to focus on my studies, as if afraid I would become a lazy girl. If it weren't for the friendship from growing up together, I wouldn't bother with him. Just as I was about to lose patience and type, forget it if you don't want to come, he finally replied, are you sure? I scratched my head. It's just barbecue. What's not to be sure about? Could it be he thinks barbecue is too troublesome? Indeed, I'm usually lazy when it comes to barbecue. He always handles the grilling, so he must find it troublesome. So I deleted the typed message and replied again. Don't worry, though I'm not fond of moving around, if you find it tiring. I have equipment at home, even electric ones, which can save you a lot of effort. I have an electric barbecue grill with 2 layers that rotates 360 degrees, super convenient. Rocky seemed to be pondering, sent an ellipsis, and asked again. I assent that a bit inappropriate. When did he become so indecisive? I simply tossed my phone aside, too lazy to reply. If he doesn't want to come, I can eat by myself. As I grumbled at Rocky while hugging a stuffed animal, I suddenly had a revelation. After graduating from college, we both left our hometown and moved to New York. Given our long-standing friendship, our parents have been trying to set us up. Rocky, being the campus heartthrob, is indeed handsome, and I had once had feelings for him. But he never seemed interested in me and had his own white moonlight, so I gave up on the idea of eating the local grass. It turns out he's been hesitating because he's trying to avoid suspicion. I grabbed my phone again, looked at his "isn't that a bit inappropriate" message, and thought for a moment before replying. It's fine, if you think there are too few people, I can invite a few more. My place is spacious, we can fit a few more people. I mistyped as "sit" as a "do," but he should understand, so I didn't bother correcting it. Rocky replied instantly, Haley, how could you do this? I don't know why, but those few words seemed to carry a tone of resentment. Confused, I thought my house isn't larger than his, so why is he upset? After thinking hard, I suddenly had an epiphany and slapped my thigh. He must be jealous that I have more friends than he does. Then he sent another message, don't invite others. It has to be just us. What's the matter? Afraid there won't be enough meat. I didn't expect that the usually aloof Rocky would actually be such a glutton. Since he's the one doing the grilling, I agreed happily. All right, just us. I won't invite anyone else. Fearing he might hesitate again, I urged, hurry up, I've already prepared the mugwort. He loves green rice balls made by my mom, and though mine aren't as good as hers, they're still pretty good. Since he's doing all the grilling, I can't do nothing, so I'll steam a couple of rice balls. It's easy and convenient, just right. Rocky didn't reply further and just called me directly. I answered the phone and asked, is there something else? There was silence on the other end for a moment, then Rocky said, Uncle and Auntie keep flying over to see you. It's not really appropriate for us to be at your place. How about you come over to mine instead? My mom is indeed coming in a few days, and she has a serious obsession with cleanliness. If she smells any lingering barbecue grease in my room, she'll definitely scold me. I didn't expect Rocky to be so considerate, thinking of even this. Though his voice was a bit shy, which was puzzling. I agreed, okay, I'll come over to your place now and buy a few more things at the convenience store. Rocky was surprised and asked, what else do you need to buy? He didn't even know that? I rolled my eyes and said, of course, something to prevent a bloated belly. Barbecue is so delicious that it's bound to stretch your stomach. I clearly remember a classmates gathering after middle school, where we devoured a whole roast lamb. One guy ate so much that he went to the bathroom, throwing up and saying, "Oh no. Such a waste of meat, what a pity. I definitely don't want to do something so foolish." That's when prune juice comes into play. Having a glass after eating helps digestion, and running to the bathroom a couple of times will flatten any bloated belly. This is my secret to maintaining my figure. Rocky seemed to be choked by my response, hesitatingly saying, "Well, then get the largest size." His voice was so faint I almost didn't hear it. What size? I couldn't understand what he was saying. The largest size? Does he want 500 milliliters of prune juice? Is he planning to have a severe case of constipation or something? I thought for a moment and decided to buy him a bunch of bananas as well. Carrying a big bag of food, I got into a rideshare. Just as I sent the trip details to Rocky, a new message popped up in my college friends group. A classmate posted, "Serena, I heard you're going back to the country next month." Serena, yes, I'm so tired of fried fish and chips, who understands? My heart is already set on going back, boo-hoo. As soon as Serena appeared, the group became lively, talking about having a reunion dinner when she returns. Someone even at Rocky, asking if he wanted to pick her up from the airport. My breath suddenly caught in my throat. I stared at the screen for a while, and only when I saw Rocky hadn't replied did I feel like I could breathe again. But as I put down my phone and gazed out the window, I felt a strange sting at the tip of my nose. Serena was about to return, and Rocky would definitely confess to her. When he starts dating her, I'll have to be careful to keep my distance. I won't be able to go to his house or casually chat with him anymore. In the past, whenever I took a taxi, he would ask me to share my trip details for safety. This habit had been maintained for years. But once he has a girlfriend, doing that would surely be inappropriate. If Serena minds my old friendship with him, she might even ask him to cut off contact with me. Thinking about this, my heart felt like it had been dropped into a pot of sour soup, bubbling and oozing with sourness. Rocky is tall, handsome, athletic, and good at studying. His muscles and countless competition awards must have dazzled many girls. He also has a nice personality, polite to everyone, and everyone praises his manners. But honestly, he grew up in my home. Our families are neighbors. When we were in 3rd grade, his parents expanded their business overseas, traveling abroad frequently, so Rocky was left at my place. My parents treated him like a half-son, taking great care of him. Any good things I had, Rocky had too. Sometimes, when his parents couldn't make it for New Year, my mom would take him to the mall to buy a full set of new clothes and have him join us for the New Year's Eve dinner. Even through high school, he came over to my place for meals every weekend. Some classmates joked that we must be childhood sweethearts. Rocky would seriously tell them not to spread rumors, but I'd quietly lower my head in embarrassment. With all his qualities and our years of interaction, it was normal for me to have feelings for him. Even though he never confessed, I felt he liked me too. Otherwise, why would he always pull me aside after school to go over mistakes? When he saw a boy giving me a love letter, he would angrily tear it up and not let me see it. With these budding feelings, I worked hard and got into the same university as him. In college, we could openly date and he should have confessed by now. But instead of a confession, I unexpectedly saw him being close with Serena. The day before the May Day holiday, I called him, asking if he wanted to come home with me. I hadn't seen him for a long time due to my busy studies. What I didn't say was, I kind of missed him. He said he was preparing for a competition and was so busy he couldn't go home. I smiled and encouraged him, hiding my disappointment. But that evening, I saw him and Serena walking on the field, and he was wearing the jacket I gave him for his birthday. Though I hadn't seen him for a while, and he seemed a bit heavier and his hair longer, that jacket was a limited edition. Only he had it in the entire school, so I couldn't mistake it. It felt like a large hole had been punched in my heart, with the cold wind blowing right through it, making me shiver. I wanted to call out and ask why he wasn't preparing for the competition, but out for a walk instead. But when I saw him shyly reaching out to hook Serena's little finger and then retracting it, all my strength drained away in an instant, and I couldn't say a word. That holiday was spent in a daze. After the break, while having lunch in the cafeteria with my roommates, one noticed my distracted look and asked, "Haley, are you thinking about a guy? Do you want us to set you up with someone?" Another roommate immediately pouted, "Who needs to set up Haley? Everyone knows she and campus heartthrob Rocky are a perfect match." I had a reaction to the name Rocky, and before thinking, I loudly said, "Don't talk nonsense. I've always considered him family. He already has someone he likes. If he knew I had a crush on him, I wouldn't be able to face him anymore." Seeing me getting upset, my roommate quickly said, Okay, family. Look, he's just arrived. Do you want to call him over to join us?" I turned sharply and saw his tall figure standing not far away. The sunlight gathered behind him, casting him in shadow, so I couldn't see his expression. I opened my mouth, about to ask if he had heard what I said, when a clear, pleasant female voice rang out, gently pulling Rocky's attention towards Serena's radiant smile. Messages keep popping up in the group, and they're mostly about Serena. She's a beauty, and a top student, well liked by everyone, hardly anyone dislikes her. Even I have a good impression of her. Once, during finals, I was studying in the library. Though it was a sunny day, I got caught in a torrential downpour when I left the library. My roommate Rocky had twisted his ankle and was at the hospital, so he couldn't come back. My other roommates were either asleep or on dates, and none were reachable. I waited for over half an hour, and seeing no sign of the rain letting up, I was about to brave the storm when an umbrella suddenly appeared in front of me. Serena looked apologetic. "Sorry, Haley. I saw you a while ago, but I was with my roommate and we only had one umbrella, so I couldn't take you with me. I just dropped off my roommate and came to get you. Luckily, I caught you in time. If you had run back in the rain, you'd definitely catch a cold. Let's go quickly." At that time, she already knew Rocky and I had been friends since childhood, and she had no animosity toward me. Before I could say anything, she had already pulled me under the umbrella. She smiled and showed me the umbrella, saying it was a special double-sized one she had bought. Although it was a bit heavy to hold, it was convenient for 2 people, so no one would get wet. Like a kitten bragging about its good deed. How annoying. Why is she so nice? So even after finding out Rocky's feelings for her, I couldn't dislike her. The more I saw the messages in the group, the more irritated I became, so I decided to call Rocky. "What's up? Is there traffic?" A somewhat hoarse male voice came through, and I realized I had no idea what to say to him. I had to make small talk. "No traffic, about 10 minutes away. You should get ready." "What's there to get ready? I've brought all the meat and vegetables. We just need to take out the grill and start cooking when I arrive." Thinking about having barbecue soon lifted my spirits. Rocky didn't comment on my pointless words and gently responded, "I've already had a shower." Humph. He still remembers I love winter jujubes, so he's not heartless. But why does his voice sound so strange tonight? It's both gentle and shy, and it's rather puzzling. To be honest, when he speaks softly, it does make my heart feel a bit yellow. But then I thought, maybe he's being nice to everyone because Serena is coming back. That thought turned my yellow heart green, like plum juice labor results. Never mind, nothing is more important than eating. Carrying the food upstairs, I knocked on the door. Rocky opened it, and when I saw him, my mouth fell open, and it took me a while to recover. He was shirtless, wearing only a towel around his waist. Water droplets from his hair kept falling, tracing down his collarbone, sliding over his well-defined chest, abs, and V-line, finally disappearing in a deeper place. He didn't wear clothes to avoid getting them dirty with barbecue oil? That's quite smart, but unfortunately, I can't do that. It's frustrating. Rocky seemed to enjoy my reaction, smiling as he took the bag from my hand and asked, "Are you satisfied?" I nodded approvingly. "Of course, I'm satisfied. He'll be in charge of grilling, and I'll eat, so how could I not be satisfied?" After closing the door, I turned around and noticed his shy expression, and I saw that his earlobes were red, though I hadn't noticed when. He looked like a shy young boy. What's he shy about? Recalling his previous phone call, I suddenly realized and quickly took out the bananas from the bag and handed them to him. It's embarrassing to say I'm constipated, so I can only hint this way, which must be awkward for him. Rocky looked down, confused, and asked, "Why did you buy bananas?" He must be embarrassed, trying to cover it up. There's nothing to be embarrassed about constipation. I need to correct his mistaken beliefs. So I said straightforwardly, "Of course, it's to relieve it after we're done." Rocky paused and said ambiguously, "You mean, I can't satisfy you?" "That's not it. I have confidence in his grilling skills, so I'm sure I'll be full." I patted his shoulder with a knowing look. "It's because you're full that you need to use it to clear up, right?" Rocky's face turned red visibly, even reaching his neck. Thinking back to when he was at my place before, he would run to the bathroom even if he farted, so he's quite conscious of his image. After all this fuss, I wasn't hungry anymore, and Rocky didn't seem eager to eat, so I directed him to put the food in the fridge first. When the shopping bags were empty, I suddenly slapped my forehead. Oh no. I forgot to buy that. The essence of barbecue is to wrap the grilled meat in lettuce and eat it all in one bite. The fresh vegetables mixed with the rich meat flavor, and it's never greasy. Without disposable gloves, how can I wrap the vegetables and meat together? Seeing my anxious expression, Rocky quickly asked, "What else do you need to buy?" I was about to say, disposable gloves, when suddenly I choked on my own saliva and couldn't speak. I could only blush and mime, extending my left hand, forming a circle with my right hand, and making 2 motions on one of my fingers. Cough, cough, gloves, cough. Just as I was about to put on my shoes and go downstairs to buy them, Rocky grabbed my wrist. His hand was large and warm, and I could even feel a slight tremor in his fingertips. Rocky had made headlines last year for his tech startup, becoming one of New York's tech newcomers. Why would such a big boss be trembling over buying disposable gloves for a barbecue? I looked into his eyes, and found his eyelashes lowered, with his eyes wet. He wasn't looking at me but was rubbing my wrist and said softly, "I already prepared some, you don't need to buy them." I blinked. Are they the largest size? If not, I don't like them. My hands are small, but disposable gloves stick when worn for a long time, so I prefer the largest size for easy removal. Rocky's head lowered further, and he nodded. Seeing his earlobes were now almost bleeding red, I realized something was off. Rocky usually avoids cooking, so he probably doesn't even know the sizes of disposable gloves. He probably just bought a random box and didn't want to be laughed at for his lack of knowledge, so he nodded. With ears so red, he must be lying. Though it's not a big deal, it would be troublesome if the gloves didn't fit during dinner. I thought of a good idea and said, "Okay, let's try them out now." The quality of disposable gloves varies. I once bought a cheap, poor quality box that tore after a short while. I added, "Take out a few more, and let's try each one." Rocky's pupils were shaking. He swallowed hard, took a deep breath, and asked, "How many can you handle?" "What's there to handle? I'm not a delicate princess, just trying on gloves." Why is he worried about me getting tired? I patted his shoulder. "Don't worry, I'm in good shape." His skin was rather smooth. I reluctantly removed my hand from his shoulder and was about to head to the kitchen to find the gloves when Rocky pulled me back. His expression was both sweet and conflicted, as if he wanted to say something but was hesitant, standing stiffly, not knowing where to place his hands and feet. I raised an eyebrow in confusion, and he continued to look conflicted, his entire face blushing like a peach blossom. What's making him so nervous? I thought for a moment and tentatively asked, "Are you craving it?" Rocky cast a slightly resentful glance at me. "Now that you've brought it up, of course, I'm thinking about it." He's always been like this, never admitting he's hungry unless my parents called him to the table. I forgot about this detail. I glanced at his still wet chest and offered to help. "It's okay, I'm actually hungry too. Let's not stand here, let's get going." I took the opportunity to pat his shoulder again, and discreetly touched his chest. I'm helping him out, isn't it reasonable to expect some reward? But this time, I couldn't withdraw my hand. Suddenly, the world spun around me, and before I realized it, I was being carried horizontally by him. As he walked, he said, "Don't rush, I'll make sure you eat your fill later." Wait, my legs aren't injured. Why is he carrying me? And why is he heading toward the bedroom, not the kitchen? When my body sank into the soft bed, my mind was a complete blur. Had Rocky been possessed or taken the wrong medication? Just as I was propping myself up to get up, he pressed me back down, his gaze burning intensely as if he wanted to scorch the clothes off me with his eyes. Although I didn't know what was happening, he had clearly misunderstood me. I hurried to explain, "Calm down, is there some kind of misunderstanding between us?" Suddenly, it began to rain outside. He leaned close to my ear, whispering like a demon, "Do you know how long I've waited for this day?" His breath was warm against my neck, making me dry and parched. The face I had yearned for years suddenly loomed large before me, and with his body so close, I couldn't help but lick my lips. Why was I suddenly so thirsty, heart racing so fast, and feeling like I was on fire? It must be because I hadn't drunk enough water today. I lifted my already weak and limp hand, trying to push Rocky away, but he suddenly pouted, his voice tinged with a hint of grievance. "Don't push me away." With a boom, the remaining fragments of my rationality were instantly turned to ashes. The rain outside grew heavier, accompanied by flashes of lightning and thunder. A fleeting flash of white light illuminated the dim bedroom, and I saw his muscles tense up like a beast ready to devour its prey. Accompanied by the thunder was the sound of fabric being torn apart. It seemed like rainwater had seeped into the room, dripping steadily onto me. In a daze, I suddenly recalled when I first met Rocky. "Wow, you're 2 months younger than me, so you should call me." I don't want to. For a long time afterward, I kept pestering him to call me, but no matter how I threatened or bribed him, he wouldn't say it. Thinking about his earlier, I belatedly realized, it wasn't that he didn't want to call me that before, it was that the temptation wasn't big enough. Rocky noticed I was lost in thought and bit down on my collarbone as a punishment. I let out a low cry of pain and quickly lost focus on anything else, until I saw him take out a small box and dump its contents onto the bed. Wait, there are several of these, and we need to use them all? Seeing my eyes widen in shock, Rocky chuckled softly. Don't worry, we'll use them all, one by one. When did I say that? In a flash, I suddenly realized where the problem lay. I had been thinking about barbecue when I sent him a message on Facebook, but I hadn't actually mentioned barbecue by name. Recalling what I had said to him, my face was as red as a cooked shrimp. Help. How many tiger wolf words did I say tonight? But it was too late to feel embarrassed now. Rocky's kisses fell in a continuous and delicate manner, more cheerful than the heavy rain outside. No matter how much I tried to convince myself that I don't like him, my body was honest and turned into a puddle of water. I was kissed into a daze, my hands instinctively resting on his shoulders, and my legs wrapped around his waist. What I saw in front of me was him, what I smelled was him, and what I heard was his breathing. At this moment, Rocky occupied my entire world, making everything else fade into nothingness. The rain outside had fallen all night, and the rain in the bedroom had hardly stopped either. By the end, Rocky seemed rejuvenated, as if he had practiced some sort of mystical art for revitalization, while I was nearly exhausted to the point of fainting. When I opened my eyes again, it was already afternoon. Rocky was lying beside me, his eyelashes slightly curled, looking satisfied, with his hand resting on my waist. We were as close as if we were a couple deeply in love. As I looked at his sleeping face, I suddenly recalled a line from a poem I learned in elementary school. Tonight the silver lamp remains, fearing the meeting is but a dream. Even in my boldest dreams, I never dared to imagine such a dreamlike scene. I carefully turned over, trying to get out of bed without waking Rocky. After all, last night could be considered a crime of passion. He probably wouldn't want to see me when he wakes up. But as soon as I moved, Rocky's eyelashes fluttered. Seeing that he was about to wake up, I quickly sat up and said before he could kick me out, I don't need you to take responsibility. I intended to look stern, but my hoarse voice betrayed me. It was all his fault. I kept silent, but he insisted on being difficult, or I wouldn't have moaned all night. My voice was hoarse, but I tried to maintain my resolve, standing firm and meeting his gaze. Rocky looked at me for a moment and then suddenly smiled. Got it. You don't need me to take responsibility. I sighed in relief, but at the same time felt an inexplicable sense of loss. He was happy just because he knew I wouldn't cling to him? Damn man, doesn't he remember who was moaning sister all night, coaxing me to use up the entire box? He wakes up and denies everything. What a scumbag. While I was cursing inwardly, Rocky suddenly said, but you have to take responsibility for me. All right, as long as he doesn't push the blame on me, I'll agree to anything. Wait a second. What the heck? I stared in shock, blurting out, what did you say? Rocky blinked and repeated, last night you invited me, and I confirmed with you several times. You were quite proactive, so you need to take responsibility. I wanted to cry without tears, feeling utterly embarrassed that my proactivity was about eating barbecue. Otherwise, I'd be exposing my intelligence, preventing a potential baby bump. I should have just said something about prunes. Why am I trying to be clever? Rocky's eyes sparkled, as if he had just received the best candy in the world. And I've liked him for so many years, how could I not be moved? Hesitating, I sighed and asked with difficulty, then, what about Serena? He was just a momentary impulse for me, but Serena is about to return to the country. By then, if I regret it, there'll be no way to resolve things between us. Rocky frowned and asked, what does she have to do with this? If it weren't for thinking about her, why would he laugh when I said he didn't have to be responsible? Rocky reached out and ruffled my hair. I'm laughing because the red marks on your face haven't faded yet. You look silly. Damn, how did I let my inner thoughts slip out? Too embarrassed to stay in bed, I clambered down, but just as I was about to get up, my legs went weak and I collapsed back, landing right in Rocky's arms, like a sudden hug. He promptly embraced me and kissed me again. Seeing the atmosphere getting more intense, I quickly pushed him away. I'm hungry. I really don't have the energy. Rocky paused, his bright eyes staring at me as if to remind me not to lie. At that moment, my stomach cooperated and made a couple of growls, showing my sincerity. Rocky sighed helplessly, took a while to calm down, and then patted my head. I'll make you something to eat. Just wait. Before getting up, he gave me a kiss on the cheek. This is your reward. I quickly shrank under the covers, feeling very shy. Watching Rocky happily dress and head to the kitchen, I finally emerged from the blankets, with my hair now a mess. I suspected he might have a hair fetish. The clothes I wore last night were ripped and unusable, so I opened the wardrobe and found one of Rocky's shirts to wear as a nightgown. Just as I finished putting on the shirt, my mom's call came in. Haley, what time do you think it is? Just waking up? What did you do last night? I called several times, and you didn't answer. I almost called the police. I quickly pulled the phone away to escape my mom's tirade and explained. I was working late last night and just slept in this morning. My phone was on vibrate, and I didn't hear it. My mom snorted, indicating she was letting it go, and then asked, What about Rocky? He didn't answer his phone either. It seems like he stayed up too. Do you know what he was doing last night? I remembered the red marks on my body and, feeling guilty, said, who knows, maybe he was farming. Rocky suddenly called from the kitchen, do you want your eggs sunny side up or scrambled? Without thinking, I replied, sunny side up. As soon as I said it, I realized something was off and the phone went silent. I immediately realized the gravity of the situation. When my mom's excited voice came through again, I almost wished I were deaf. I just heard Rocky's voice. Did you sleep with him last night? Are you two together? I was startled and almost jumped out of my skin. I quickly shook my head. Don't say that. I just went over to deliver food. The rain was too heavy, so I didn't go back. I slept in the guest room, not with him. The more guilty I felt, the more I stubbornly denied it, afraid my mom would really believe it. But it seemed I didn't need to wait for deafness. I lost my voice first. Otherwise, how could my mom ignore everything I was saying? Her laughter was as bright as a bell. That's great. After so many years, you're finally with Rocky. I've liked Rocky since he was young. He's smart, well-behaved, and suitable to be my son-in-law. Hearing my mom's long list of compliments, my thoughts started to wander. He was a newbie last night, but he managed to figure everything out on his own for an entire night. Indeed smart. Every time I said I was tired, he would coax me, sis, just one more time, so well-behaved. Afterwards, I was so exhausted, I wanted to go straight to sleep, but he carried me to the bathroom and washed me thoroughly. I've never seen someone so considerate. Stop. I suddenly shook my head, my ears turning red. What on earth am I thinking? Fearing my mom would keep making things worse, I stubbornly said, I don't like Rocky. Rather than admit it now and face complications when Serena returns, it's better to cover this up from the start. As expected, my mom didn't let up. How could that be? Rocky is such an excellent guy. I've never seen anyone who doesn't like him. If he was born 30 years earlier, your dad wouldn't have had a chance. Shocked by my mom's aggressive words, I flustered and said, I like girls. The world suddenly went silent. Just as I sighed in relief, my mom hesitated before saying, then you should take Rocky to Thailand for surgery. Mom will cover the cost. Mom, do you hear yourself? My mom said firmly, I don't care. Rocky has been living with us since he was little. I've spent more time with him than his own mother. I put so much effort into him, not to let him become someone else's son-in-law. Before I could explain, she hung up the phone with a click. I was in a daze and texted my dad on Facebook. Handle your wife. I said I like girls, and she's asking me to take Rocky for gender reassignment surgery. My dad replied immediately, I've always wanted another daughter. Don't worry about it. I'll cover the cost. I looked up and saw Rocky standing at the door with a plate of fried eggs and toast. He looked down, disappointed, and said, no wonder you mentioned Serena. It turns out you like girls. Just as I was about to explain, he added, I'm going to check for flights to Thailand. Don't think you can shake me off. You three must be a family of lunatics. After finally clearing things up with Rocky, my mom sent another message. I forgot to mention on the phone, but there's a typhoon passing through New York right now. All flights are canceled, and my ticket was canceled too. Try not to go out these days. Wait until the typhoon passes before you leave though. Before I could reply, 2 more messages followed. By the way, make sure to cultivate your relationship well. Oh, and don't forget to take throat lozenges. She included a you know what I mean meme. I was mortified and furious. I didn't avoid Rocky while checking my phone, so it was no surprise he heard his light laugh. Shame doubled. Fortunately, he didn't press the issue but sent me a news update instead. Last night, the typhoon officially arrived in New York. Several streets near my house are flooded. No cars can get in or out. Just stay here these days. The news video showed streets flooded with water, and I saw familiar storefronts in the footage, Rocky's nearby supermarket. Looking down from the window, I saw several cars being carried away by the water. Indeed, there was no way to get out. I sighed, resigned, and quickly asked my boss for leave. The typhoon lingered in New York for a week, so I was stuck at Rocky's place for a week. During this week, I experienced what it truly means to be clingy. At night, we had to cuddle to sleep. In the morning we had to synchronize our routines. And even when he was in the kitchen cooking, I had to stay by his side. Although I was on leave and didn't need to work, I still had tasks to do. And during the day we worked separately, but I had to stay within his sight. According to him, seeing me while working motivated him more. Moreover, I had to kiss him from time to time, or he would look dejected and say, you promised to be responsible, and now you're already bored? The room smelled of green tea. When the rain finally stopped and the water on the streets was mostly drained, I actually breathed a sigh of relief. I liked him a lot, and I enjoyed the intimate time together. Every time he held me, I felt like I had fallen into a honeypot, so satisfied I didn't know what to say. I had even grown accustomed to his occasional sneaky kisses and hugs, addictive like candy. But the more I indulged, the more I feared. Rocky said he had no feelings for Serena and told me not to overthink. Of course, I wanted to believe him, but Serena had been abroad for years. Maybe the long time apart was why he didn't have feelings anymore? She was so excellent and beautiful. What if Rocky saw her again and felt something? I wouldn't even have the confidence to stop him. What would I do then? My heart fluttered between the honey pot and the sour soup pot, making me deeply understand what it means to suffer. If I continued to interact with Rocky like this, I would only fall deeper. So on the day I returned to work, I specifically emphasized to Rocky, after work, I'll go straight home. You don't have to wait for me. Rocky silently looked at me, and then expertly showed a disappointed expression. I was determined to refuse no matter how he tried to persuade me. I built a strong defense in my mind, waiting for his move. Rocky gently spoke, but I already bought ingredients in advance. I plan to make your favorite lemon steak and fried squid tonight. Clang, half of my defenses collapsed. He might not enjoy cooking, but his food, passed down from my mom, was a lifesaver in New York's culinary desert. Seeing my expression soften, he pressed on, come over after work. I'll take you back after dinner, okay? Boom, my defenses completely crumbled, turning into the drool I struggled to hold back. That night, he indeed made lemon steak and fried squid. While I was enjoying the meal, he brought a cup to me. I specially made this drink for you. It's not too strong. Try it. I took a cautious sip. It was sweet with a hint of tart, exactly the flavor I liked. So I ended up drinking 3 cups and got drunk. Naturally, I didn't leave. After taking a shower and lying on the bed, Rocky, well acquainted with the routine, snuggled up to me. Sis, now that you're full, it's time to feed me. Under his coaxing, I nodded and ended up as his main course. The red marks on my body were covered with new ones, definitely not a pleasant sight. So before leaving the next morning, I grit my teeth and declared, I definitely won't come over tonight. Rocky immediately expressed regret. Tonight I'm making tomato beef hot pot. If you don't come, I'll have to eat it alone. I helplessly swallowed. He muttered to himself, I bought a lot of lamb spine, enough for 2 meals. I'll save the leftover broth for noodles tomorrow morning. It'll definitely be delicious. Before I could react, my mouth moved on its own. I'll come over tonight to eat. After dinner, I was already thinking about the next morning's noodles, so I didn't leave. He even convinced me to pay for the meal as a reward. In the following days, Rocky cooked various dishes and openly made me stay at his house. I managed to resist once, but when I returned home after work to an empty house, a cold kitchen, and a meal kit takeout, I regretted it on the spot, threw the takeout away, and took a taxi to Rocky's place, confidently making up a lie. There's a leak upstairs, and my place is flooded. I can't stay there tonight. Looking at the table behind him, steaming potato beef stew was ready, with 2 sets of chopsticks, one of which was mine. What a scheming man. After that, I completely gave up resistance. Face whatever comes, I can't resist my own stomach. So after a while of mooching off Rocky, one night while enjoying his barbecued ribs, my phone dinged. It was a message from a friend group. Serena, I'm coming back to the country tomorrow. Let's find a time to meet up. Plop, the meat from my chopsticks fell into the soup bowl, and the soup splashed onto my hand. I instinctively winced. TSK. Rocky quickly grabbed a wet wipe to clean my hand and asked, what's wrong? You seem distracted all of a sudden. I wanted to say it was nothing, but since Rocky was also in the group, I couldn't hide it. Facing his concerned expression, I had no choice but to whisper, Serena is coming back tomorrow. Rocky's expression didn't change much. I saw her mention it in the group too. It felt like the air was being gradually sucked out, and every word I spoke became more difficult. So, are you going to pick her up? Rocky tilted his head and gave me a glance, neither confirming nor denying. My heart rate spiked rapidly. After wiping my hand clean, he habitually patted my head. I promise to cook you iron pot stew tomorrow. I don't have time to pick her up. Besides, I don't really know her. The air seemed to flow back into my lungs, and my heart rate slowly decreased. I could breathe again, but the anxiety wouldn't disappear. After all, he hadn't met Serena yet. Years had passed, and she must be even more charming. Would Rocky really not develop feelings for her? Right now, I felt like a thief who had stolen happiness, suddenly receiving a notice. I'm going to take away your happiness. Cherish the last beautiful moments. I was anxious for several days, like this, standing in front of the dining room door, feeling like I was waiting for a sentence. Rocky gently took my hand and pushed open the door to the dining room. The clamor instantly surrounded me. Serena has been abroad for years. She seems like a different person, more graceful than before. Of course, Serena studied art. Being immersed in it every day, she must have a certain grace. I heard Serena is bringing her own studio back this time. That's impressive. Serena is an excellent alumna from a university. I heard she was recently invited by the principal to speak at the freshman welcome ceremony. Everyone's topic revolved around Serena. I looked at the girl sitting in the main seat like a star surrounded by the moon. A jade hairpin held her long hair up, and the white cheapao accentuated her gentle temperament, like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. Not to mention the boys, even a straight girl like me wanted to say, "Sister, hug hug." I didn't know who suddenly shifted the topic to Rocky. I also heard about the welcome ceremony. Didn't the school invite Rocky too? TSK, a tech news star and a Ritter-knee genius. It's quite an honor that both of them are my friends. Rocky modestly waved his hand. Oh, not really, I'm just in small business, not that impressive. Serena turned her eyes towards the sound. Upon seeing Rocky, her eyes instantly lit up. She got up and walked towards us. I had begun to imagine how she would greet Rocky, but she suddenly fell into a fragrant, gentle embrace. Haley, we haven't seen each other for so long. I've missed you so much. Forget about the tension and anxiety. Who cares who Rocky is? Being embraced by such a beauty, I felt like the happiest person in the world. Unfortunately, my happiness didn't last long. Rocky separated me from Serena's embrace and greeted her politely. You're not leaving this time, right? His expression wasn't very good. He must be jealous. So frustrating. Serena's smile was radiant. No, I'm not leaving. It's uncomfortable abroad. The food doesn't suit my taste, and transportation is inconvenient. It's better here. I'm bringing my studio back and settling in New York. I hope Mr. Su will take good care of me. Rocky also smiled and naturally wrapped his arm around me. Of course, Haley mentioned you several times before you came back. Given how much she likes you, I won't say no to helping out. Serena's eyes sparkled with gossip. So you two childhood friends are finally together. That's not easy. Rocky nodded with a smile. Yes, we'll invite you to our home for a meal sometime. I secretly turned my head to look at him. His smile was polite and very different from usual. He must be feeling uncomfortable being teased about his relationship with his college crush. But if he was uncomfortable, why did my heart start to grow wild grass too? It must be because my empathy is too strong, so I also felt distressed. I quietly lowered my head, trying to hide the bitterness on my face. But Serena's next sentence was like a thunderclap in my ear. By the way, Peter and I are together now. He's been busy moving his company from abroad back home and won't be back for a while. You're closest to him, so when he returns, I'll have him invite you for a meal. I suddenly looked up, almost thinking I misheard. What? Rocky's best buddy is with his white moonlight? What a shocking drama. The rest of the meal, I ate in a daze. Taking advantage of Serena going to the restroom, I hurriedly followed her. I needed to clear up what was going on. Facing my confusion, Serena shyly smiled. Actually, Peter and I had mutual feelings during college, but our families' companies were rivals. It wouldn't be accepted if we were together, so we were very cautious and didn't dare to confirm our relationship. It wasn't until we went abroad, I pursued further studies and opened a studio, and he started his own business, that we had the courage to be together. I was stunned. But in our sophomore year, didn't you go on dates with Rocky? Serena looked surprised too. You must be mistaken. Rocky and I never spent time alone together. After I told her about that night when I saw them walking together, Serena suddenly burst into laughter. That night, it wasn't Rocky with me, it was Peter. You don't know, the jacket you bought for Rocky made Peter envious. He wanted to borrow it several times, but Rocky never agreed. That day, Rocky was busy preparing for a competition and didn't have time to return to the dorm, so Peter wore the jacket and showed off to me. Later, when he went back, Rocky saw him and made him treat him to lunch for a month. I blinked slowly, recalling that night when I saw the back. I thought Rocky had gained weight, but it wasn't him. The tormenting worry was just a misunderstanding from the start. While I was still in shock, Serena suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, I remember after that holiday ended, Rocky was in a bad mood one day and took Peter out for drinks. Peter asked him a lot to find out that Rocky said you regarded him as family and never thought of dating him. He was very upset for a long time. Could it be because of your misunderstanding that this happened?" I felt like I was struck by lightning, freezing in place. He indeed heard what I said that day, but what I said was insincere. I mistook someone and caused such a big issue. Serena looked guilty. It's all Peter's fault. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a big misunderstanding between you and Rocky. Maybe you would have been together back then. When he returns to the country, I'll make sure to teach him a lesson and make him apologize to you. I came back to my senses and quickly reassured her. It's okay, it's okay. Rocky probably didn't like me that much at the time. Otherwise, he would have confirmed it with me directly. Also, in 4 years of college, he never confessed to me. Serena showed a strange expression. He did confess to you. During the finals of our junior year, when you were studying in the library, he said he liked you, but you pretended not to hear. That night, Peter complained to me that Rocky was so devastated after his confession failed that he forced him to carry textbooks all night, so I remember it vividly. I recalled for a long time before realizing when she mentioned. During the end of the junior year, I was under a lot of exam pressure. After staying up for several nights, one morning I found I couldn't hear from my left ear. The doctor said it was sudden deafness, related to staying up late, stress, and emotional fluctuations, and gave me 3 days of medication. As a college student suddenly deafened by exam stress, I didn't tell anyone about it because it was embarrassing. Anyway, my right ear still worked, so it didn't affect my communication. After taking the medication for 3 days, my hearing recovered, and I forgot about it. Turns out, he wasn't blowing air into my ear, he was confessing. So, did Rocky and I miss out on so many years? But he likes me. From start to finish, he has always liked me. I sometimes frowned and sighed, and other times grinned foolishly. Serena asked worriedly, Haley, are you okay? I wiped my face. It's okay. I just discovered a truth. What truth? I'm a self-righteous and slow-witted fool. Returning to the dining room, the party was already winding down. After saying goodbye to Serena, Rocky took my hand and led me to the car. He asked, what did you talk about with her? I felt too embarrassed to admit that we talked about my past mistakes, so I just chuckled and said, nothing much, just some gossip about her and Peter. With one concern resolved, I was in a great mood and eagerly suggested, let's go to the riverside for a breeze. Rocky gently stroked my hair, his voice as soothing as moonlight. Sure, wherever you want to go, I'll be with you. New York's light pollution is severe, and the quiet riverside is one of the few places in the city where you can see the stars. Holding Rocky's hand, I suddenly felt a bit nervous. He had confessed his feelings for me, which I missed, but I had never seriously confessed my feelings. I swallowed, gripping his sleeve, and whispered, Rocky, I like you. A gust of wind blew over the river, instantly scattering the words that had just left my mouth. Rocky didn't hear clearly, raising his eyebrows in confusion. What did you say? Looking into his eyes, filled with my reflection, I suddenly let go of his hand and ran off into the distance. As I ran, I shouted back, I said, I like you. A rapid patter of footsteps followed, and then I was pulled into a tight embrace. The sound of his heartbeat, thumping strongly in my ear, made my own heartbeat quicken, synchronizing with his. The sound above, bathed in moonlight and starlight, felt even more precious. I know, I love you too.